الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. In the preceding lecture, I talked about the 6 factors which are used for describing consonants. قلنا إن هناك 6 عناصر, 6 factors, 6 principles, 6 bases, 6 features for describing consonants. And I said that these factors are as follows: place of articulation, this is the first one. The second one, manner of articulation. The third one is voicing. The fourth one is intensity of muscles. The fifth one is length of consonants. And the last one, the sixth one, is strength of consonants. And here I'm going to give you a rapid review, مراجعة سريعة راح أنطي الآن, about the first 2 factors. Then I'm going to talk about the other 4 factors today, inshallah. So, when I talked about place of articulation, I said that we have these places. مكان النطق, place of articulation or point of articulation. That is where a particular sound, a particular consonant is produced. Now, here, for example, this is a rapid review, as I have just said. مراجعة سريعة. The first 2 factors, العنصرين الأوليين اللي هم place أو articulation أول واحد الآن راح أتكلم عنه, وبعدين manner, وبعدين نتكلم عن بقية عناصر factors. Now, the first one, as I have just said, is place of articulation. Now, what do we have here? Here we have, for example, we have some consonants which are produced by using the lips. For example, p, b, m, and w. These 4 consonants are produced by the lips, sometimes closed, by closing the lips, and some other times by opening the lips. For example, lips when we produce w. Now, these are called bilabials. These are called bilabials. So, any consonant produced by using the 2 lips, whether closed or open, is said to be bilabial or is called bilabial. Of course, these are Latin terms. Now, the second, for example, we have if and if. If and if here, we use the lower lip with the upper front teeth. These are called Libya Dental. Libya Dental. شفوي أسناني. نتكلم الآن عن موقع. Also we have, as I have just said, we have if and if here. Now, also, when we talk about ethanid, what do we have here? We use the tip of the tongue being very close, قريب جدا, from the upper front teeth. And these are called dental, أسنانية. The tongue here is or comes very close or is very close to the upper front teeth. We have ith and ith. Then we have, for example, alveolar. In alveolar, we have sometimes the tip of the tongue touches the alveolar ridge. For example, in the production of these sounds, te, de, l, n. Now, these are produced by what? By the tongue being in contact with the alveolar ridge. These are called alveolar. And also we have is here. In S and is the tip of the tongue, or also the place sometimes, is very close to the alveolar ridge, and these are called also alveolar. They are also called alveolar. Also, we have the next group consists of, for example, of only one sound, which is called post-alveolar. Post-alveolar, which is the sound here. The tongue is curved back. The tongue is curved back, pointing with its tip, المقدمة مالته, pointing towards the last part of the alveolar ridge. يسموه post alveolar, ما بعد الالveolar, near to the hard palate. Now this is called, the only sound here is which is called post alveolar. Also we have, for example, palatal. Palatal and palatal, we have the only sound which is palatal is ye. Here, the front of the tongue is raised, coming close, not very close, close to the hard palate. So this is called palatal. We also have palato-alveolar. For example, j, anish, anish. Also, these are called palato-alveolar. What do we use here? We use the average and the hard palate. That is, the tongue here in ch and j, the tongue touches the average, and at the same time, the front of the tongue is raised towards the hard palate. So we have two areas here involved. This is why we call these palato-alveolar. And also anish, anish, the tip of the tongue is close to the average, and at the same time, simultaneously, the front of the tongue is raised towards the hard palate. Also, we have two areas involved, and this is why we call them palato-alveolar. And then we have velar, for example, k, g, and ng. These are called velar. Why velar? Because here the back of the tongue is raised, touching the soft palate or the velum, which is called the velum, and this is why we call these velar, because we are talking about place or point of articulation. مكان النطق. Then the back of the tongue, نهاية اللسان, touches the soft palate or the velum, and these are called velar. And also we have the sound, the only sound which is the sound here we call H, represented by the letter H. This is produced where? In the glottis. Therefore, we call this glottal. So these are, this is called place of articulation. About the second factor, the second principle, the second feature, which is manner of articulation. Here we talk about how consonants are produced. Therefore, we have also these types under this heading. تحت هذا العنوان we have these types. For example, we have fricatives. Fricatives, أصوات احتكاكية. Why do we call them fricatives? Because we call them fricatives because here there's always, in fricatives, there's always a narrowing, تضييق. And this narrowing, of course, is caused by the articulators, the organs of speech, coming very close to each other. For example, if and if here, the tip of the lower lip comes very close to the upper front teeth, making a narrowing, تضييق. And when the breath passes through this narrowing, it passes with a friction. And of course, there's always, as I have just said, there's in fricatives, there's always a narrowing. There must be a narrowing, and these are called continuant also, continuants. And here we have the fricatives in English are these ifaniv, ithaniv, isaniz, shanij, and the sound, the ninth one. Now also we have stops under this heading. تحت هذا العنوان اللي هو minor articulation, we have fricatives, then we have stops. Why do we call them stops? Because the breath stops. The breath completely stops. There is a complete closure, إغلاق تام, which is caused by the articulators, the organs of speech. سبب مالته هو إنه organs of speech come in contact with each other. Complete contact. That is complete closure, إغلاق تام. And then the breath is released with explosion. So they are called plosives أيضا. Plosives, they are also called plosives انفجارية. So because the breath stops, and of course we have three pairs of stops, which are P, B, T, D, K, G. These are called stops. Now then the third group is called nasals. Why do we call them nasals? Because the breath goes through the nasal cavity or the nose, or through the nostrils. The nose, of course, the end of the nose we call nostrils, فتحتان الأنف. So the breath goes, because the breath goes through the nose, we call them nasals. Here, of course, in English, we have three nasals. We have n, and n. We have three nasals. These are called nasals. Also, we have the fourth group, المجموعة الرابعة. The fourth group is called laterals, of course, which is represented by lateral, by dark and light in particular. Here we have also, or the center of the mouth is blocked completely. المركز الفم مغلق. By what? By the tip of the tongue being pressed against the upper ridge. Now نقول الآن when we produce Here the tongue or the tip tongue is in contact with the alveolage, and the breath, of course, goes over the size of the tongue, over the size of the tongue. حول جانبي اللسان. كلمة lateral إذن هي means جانبي, and this is called, these are called laterals. Also we have glidings. In glidings, of course, in glidings the breath also, or the articulators, come close to each other. The articulators come close to each other. أعضاء النطق تتقرب من بعضها, but not to the extent causing friction. لكن ليس للحد اللي يسبب لنا friction. Therefore they are not called fricatives. Glidings اللي هم و, ي, and these are called glidings. Glidings because the articulators أعضاء النطق تتقرب من بعضها, but not to the extent, لكن ليس للحد يوصل إلى fricatives, because they are not fricatives, they are glidings. And also we have affricates. In affricates here, we have two affricates in English, which are che and je. And each of these consists of a stop plus a fricative. Consists of stop plus fricative. That is, they start as stops and end as fricatives. So they are neither stops nor fricatives. They are called affricates. They are called affricates. Now this is called manner. This is related to manner of articulations. And then we move to the third factor, the third principle, the third factor or the third principle, which is voicing. What do we mean by voicing? Now, before we go further to talk about voicing, I'm going to give you an idea about the vocal folds. Now, what do we mean by voicing? I'm going to draw a diagram to show how the process proceeds. Now, this is a figure or a diagram which shows the organs of speech or the articulators. Now, what do we have here? As I said before, the breath here, which is in the lungs, of course, this is, as we see here, now these are the lungs. Of course, here we have the lungs, and the breath that comes out of the lungs, goes upwards, passing through the windpipe or trachea, القصبة الهوائية. يأتي من lungs. I said in the preceding lecture that the production of all sounds in English, for example, depends on the air that comes out of the lungs, and this is called pulmonic airstream mechanism. Pulmonic airstream. Pulmonic means coming from the lungs, or is related to the lungs. So the breath here that comes out of the lungs goes upwards, goes upwards, passing through the windpipe or trachea. This is windpipe or trachea, قصبة الهوائية, and then it passes through the larynx, الحنجرة. Now, what do we have in the larynx? Of course, the larynx is a rigid box of cartilages, صندوق من الغضاريف. Inside the larynx, we have the vocal folds. Now here, the vocal folds, as I said before, recall the information I gave you here in the preceding lecture. I said that the vocal folds have 4 states, 4 positions. 4 حالات للvocal folds تكلمت عنها بالدرس الماضي in the preceding lecture, and now I'm going to give you also to talk about these to just remind you of the information here. Here we can say that the vocal folds have 4 states. These are as follows. Number 1, this is here. Number 2, this is 3 and 4. I can say that here, of course, the vocal folds are not like these here. are not vertical lines. In fact, they are vocal folds. They are called folds. طية. This is these are the vocal folds. These are the cartilages, which are responsible for the movement of the vocal folds. Now here I can represent this by these vertical lines. أقدر أعبر عنها بهاي الطريقة البسيطة حتى just to simplify the matter. So we have these four states. Now what do we have here? The vocal folds here, of course, before this, I'd like to say that the vocal folds vibrate nearly 200 vibrations per second in men and 400 vibrations per second in women. So the vocal folds here vibrate nearly تقريبا 200 vibrations per second in men, but 400 vibrations, double this number in women. Now, look up. Now here, as you see here, when I'm going to talk about each one here. This is when we produce the sound which is this is called the only sound produced here is Now what do we have here? Here the vocal folds are in contact with each other. The vocal folds which are found in the larynx, this is the larynx. Vocal folds here are in contact with each other. Now when the breath comes here at this point, when the breath comes here, it stops for a short time, and then the vocal folds open suddenly. And this is the case when we produce the sound The only sound produced in English is Now, then we have, look at this please, at the fourth state. Now here, the vocal folds are far from each other, are widely open. The vocal folds are widely open. Now, when the breath passes through them, it passes without causing any vibration or friction. So this is the case where when we produce voiceless consonants. Voiceless consonants are produced when the vocal folds are far from each other, بعيدة عن بعضها, are widely open. So this is the case where voiceless consonants are produced. Now here, look at this please. Number 2 here, the vocal folds come close to each other, are near each other, are close to each other. Now this happens when we produce or this causes them to vibrate. When the breath passes through them, it passes causing a vibration, and this is the case where we produce voiced consonants or voice sounds. Let's say, sorry, voice sounds, because we have vowels and consonants here. So the vocal folds vibrate when they are very close to each other. So when the breath passes through them, it passes with vibration. It causes them to vibrate. So there's vibration in the vocal folds when they come very close to each other. Now here, the only sound here, third state, is the sound H, represented by the letter H, which is, and here when the breath passes through the vocal folds, of course this is called the glottis. This is the space between the vocal folds, is called the glottis. المسافة بين الvocal folds بتكون مفتوحة, is called the glottis. So when the breath passes through the vocal folds here, it passes without causing vibration, but it causes friction. It causes only friction. So the breath causes friction here in the vocal folds, and the only sound produced here in English is the sound. So it's called glottal because it's produced at the glottis, and it's called fricative. So these are the four states of the glottis, or the four positions of the glottis, or the four states of the vocal folds. Now, here we can have some rules. To say here. Now, what do we have here? Of course, now how do we know that a particular sound is voiced or voiceless? here we have two main tests here to depend on. One of them is to touch, directly touch the larynx, the throat, and say, for example, and I produce these sounds, for example, s, z. Here you can feel that there is vibration in the vocal folds when producing z, not s. But with s, there is no vibration. This is, and also, for example, when we say pe, be, you can, to some extent, or somehow you can feel that there is vibration in the vocal folds. Now, there is another way which is better than this, which is here by closing your ears with your hands and produce, for example, s, z. You can feel some sort of what we call tanne, some sort of humming, let's say, or tanne fil idn. When producing tanne, when producing, for example, louder sound, that is louder sound. For example, when producing z, but not s. So we can say that s is voiceless, but z is voiced. Also, when producing, of course, this is clear when we use pairs of sound. Pe, be, for example. Pe with pe, there is no vibration, but with be, there is vibration. Te, de, there is vibration. There is no vibration with pe, with te, but there is vibration with de. For example, feniv, there is no vibration when producing f, but there is vibration in the vocal folds when producing v, and the like, and so on. Now here, what do we have here? We have some rules to depend on. For example, all vowels in English, all vowels, in fact, in general, all vowels are voiced sounds. That is, there is vibration in the vocal folds when producing any vowel. For example, when I say a, e, u, whatever, there is no need to check here. This is a rule. So there is no need to check whether there is vibration, because all vowels are said to be, of course, this is the case usually when used in out of context or in isolation. يعني لما نتكلم عنهم على حدة فقط، لما نتكلم عن الأصوات على حدة out of context، خارج السياق، يعني ما نستخدمها بالكلمات. Now, so we can say that all vowels are voiced. Also, all nasals are voiced. Nasals in English, for example, we have and So when we produce these, there is vibration in the vocal folds. Also, all laterals are voiced. When we say l, whether dark or light L, there is vibration in the vocal folds. All glidings are also voiced. Glidings consist of we, ye, and These are also voiced. There is no need to check. You can memorize them or learn them by heart, and this is the best way to learn them. Now, what about the others? What about, for example, stops? We have pe, be, te, de, ke, ge, for example. These are the only three pairs of stops in English. Now, here you can learn them, for example, pe, be, te, de, ke, ge, and the first one is voiceless, and the second one is voiced. Also, what about fricatives? In fricatives, for example, f, v, the, z, sh, j. These are, the first one, f, for example, is voiceless, while the second one is voiced. You can learn them by heart. And also, regarding affricates, which are che and je, the only affricates in English are che and je. Che is voiceless and je is voiced. So this is related to voicing. This is related to voicing. Now, this is the third factor, as I have just said, of the 6 factors which are used for describing consonants. هاي العناصر هي جاي نوصفها الآن، هي تستخدم لوصف الكونسونانتس in English. لوصف الكونسونانتس for describing and classifying consonants. Now, the fourth factor، شنو عندنا الفورث factor؟ هو intensity of muscles. Intensity of muscles. الشد العضلي. Now, what do we have here? They found that some consonants are produced with a greater effort from the lungs with greater effort or with intense muscles عضلات مشدودة. Of course the muscles of the chest عضلات الصدر and the muscles of the lungs عضلات الرئتين. So some consonants are seen to be produced with greater effort or with tensed muscles عضلات مشدودة. These are called Fortis consonants. And the other type is called Larynx. So those consonants which are produced with less effort, with relaxed muscles, are called Larynx. So we have here Fortis and Larynx. And this is usually done by what? By using some devices. And of course we have no devices here. Therefore, the best way to know is to depend on voicing. All the other factors, in fact, depend on voicing. They found that all consonants which are voiceless are said to be Fortis. That is, greater effort is used, جهد أكبر is used, and tensed muscles are used. Then, كل Fortis, any voiceless is considered Fortis. Any voiced consonant is said to be Larynx. So this is a rule. So because we have no devices to measure this, and phoneticians measured this and saw that any consonant so we depend on voicing here. Any consonant which is voiceless is said to be Fortis. That is, greater effort is used and also tensed muscles are used. عضلات مشدودة أكثر. And the same goes for the other two factors. العناصر الأخرى اللي وراء intensity of muscles هم strength of consonants. What do we have here? We have strong, weak. Some consonants are said to be strong and others are said to be weak. Now, also we have no devices here. They depend on devices, for example, to measure this feature. And here also they found that any consonant which is voiceless is seen to be stronger than those which are Larynx, which are voiced. So we can say that any consonant which is voiceless is also Fortis and is also strong. And the same goes for the last feature, which is length of consonants. What do we have concerning length? حول طول الكونسونانت we have long and short. Now, also of course they found that some consonants are said to be longer than others, especially in pairs. For example, P is longer than B. And here also they found that any consonant which is voiceless also depend on voicing here. So any consonant which is voiceless is seen to be longer than the consonant which is voiced. Now, therefore, we can say that any consonant which is voiceless is considered Fortis, and it is also considered strong and also considered long. And any consonant which is voiced is considered what? Is considered Larynx, also weak, and also short. Now, what is the question about these factors? Now here we can say that the question that might be raised here, that might be asked here, is this. Now, you can say, for example, what are the factors which are used for describing consonants? ما هي العناصر تستخدم features or principles or whatever which are used for describing consonants? These are, you can mention this here to say that these are 6 in number. The first one is layers of articulation. The second one, as I have just said, manner of articulation. The third one is voicing. The fourth one is intensity of muscles. The fifth one is strength of consonants. And the sixth one is length of consonants. Of course, we'll give an example for each. For example, when you say place of articulation, you can say bilabial, for example. You give pair, for example. When you mention manner of articulation, you can say fricatives, and you give an example if only one sound. If, for example, when you move to the third one, voicing, you can say that we have voiceless and voiced. Voiceless, for example, pe is voiceless and be is voiced. We give only these examples. And also about intensity of muscles, what do you have here? We have fortis lenis. Fortis lenis. You can say, for example, if is fortis and but v is lenis. The next one, the next factor is strength of consonants. Here we have strong and weak. And for example, you take an example you like. Te, for example, is strong while de is weak. And concerning the last feature, which is length of consonants, what do we say? We have, for example, ke, ge. Ke is long, but ge is weak. This is one type of questions that may be asked. Now, the other question is this. For example, I give you this question. I give you, for example, here, now a question. Describe these consonants. Now here, this is the question that might be raised here. Describe these consonants. Now, for example, let's give an example. Very easy example. For example, te. Describe te. What can we say here? Now here, we have to keep these 6 factors in mind. What do we mean here? We have to take these 6 into consideration. لازم ناخذ هاي العناصر الستة الآن خليها في فكرنا أمامنا before us and talk about them. For example, from the point of view of te, from the point of view of place, from the point of view of place of articulation, what do we consider te? Te is considered. What do we use here to produce te? We use the tip of the tongue with touching the ridge. So this is called alveolar. Alveolar. Te. ناحية place of articulation, from the point of view of place of articulation, it is called alveolar. Now, what about manner? من ناحية المانر, it belongs to تعود إلى الstops. إذن هي stop. صوت انفجاري. Stop or plosive. إذن هي stop or plosive. صوت انفجاري. الآن from the point of view of voicing. من ناحية الvoicing, is it voiceless or voiced? Of course, it is voiceless. إذن نتكلم عن يقول عنها voiceless. It is voiceless. And of course, when we come here, any voiceless sound is considered what? Fortis, long, and strong. So this is the answer for this sound, this phoneme. So we just write as this is alveolar from the point of view of place of articulation. من ناحية مكان النطق it is alveolar. من ناحية from the point of view of manner of articulation it is a stop. From the point of view of voicing it is voiceless. From the point of view of intensity of muscle this is fortis. It is from the point of view of length of consonants من ناحية الطول it is long, and of course, it is from the point of view of strength, قوة, which is strong. Now, let's take another example. For example, now take this sound, v. What do we have here? Now, we take it from the six factors, from the 6 factors. The first factor is place of articulation. Now, what is from the point of view of place من ناحية مكان النطق? We say V. What do we use? We use the lower lip with the upper front teeth. So it is called labio dental. شفوي أسناني. Labio dental. Now, from the point of view of what? Of manner of articulation. ناحية أسلوب النطق. How to produce it? It belongs to إلى أي مجموعة يعود؟ إلى مجموعة fricatives. It is called fricative. إذا هو مجموعة الأصوات الاحتكاكية. Fricative. Then what about voicing? Then the third factor is voicing. ناحية voicing. Is it voiceless or voiced? It is voiced. It is voiced. And because it is voiced, then the other factors are very easy here. We have to say that what is leanness, intensity of muscles, and we have short, and we have weak. So this is how to describe English consonants. Now, please, I'll show you of English consonants. Here, of course, this table, let's say, gives you an idea about how to describe English consonants. As you see here, if, for example, from the point of view of manner here, before place manner, fricative, it's okay, there's no problem here with order. ما عندنا مشكلة بالترتيب هنا. So you see here, from the point of view of manner, if is fricative, and place of articulation, it is labio dental. It's not clear. Labio dental. From the point of view of voicing, من ناحية voicing, it is voiceless. From the point of view of strength, there is something wrong with th here, not ht. So th, yes, strength, strong. Length, from the point of length, it is long. Intensity of muscles, it is fortis. You see here. So this is how to describe each consonant. Now, for example, v is a fricative, labiodental, voiced, weak, short, and leanness. And the third one, fricative, dental, voiceless, strong, long, fortis. The fourth one, the. Here I'm reading the sounds here. This is the, which is also fricative. All these are fricatives. Fricative, dental also. Then are also both dental, but voiced, weak, short, and leanness. The fifth one, fricative, alveolar, voiceless, strong, long, and fortis. Six, fricative, also alveolar, voiced, weak, short, and leanness. The seventh one is which is also fricative. Of course, there is nothing here. It is palato alveolar. Palato is palato alveolar. Yes, and it is voiceless, strong, long, and fortis. So it is here emitted palato alveolar. Number 8, also fricative, and also palato alveolar, voiced, weak, short, and leanness. Number 9, or fricative, glottal, voiceless, strong, long, and fortis. Now go to stops here. We have stops, 6 stops, 3 pairs, and 6 stops. It is plosive, like manner, bilabial, from the point of view of place, voiceless, from the point of view of voicing, voiceless, strong, long, and fortis. Number 2, plosive, bilabial, voiced, weak, short, and leanness. 3, plosive, alveolar, voiceless, strong, long, and fortis. Number 4, plosive, alveolar, voiced, weak, short, and leanness. Plosive, velar, voiceless, strong, long, and fortis. 6, plosive, velar, voiced, weak, short, and leanness. Now come to affricates. These are affricates. Of course, they are not affricatives. Usually they are called affricates. Well, I say not affricatives, please. So you have to correct this, please. Is usually called affricate, not affricate, yes. Affricate. Yeah. So omit IVE and put E only. Omit IV here only. Affricate. Also palato alveolar. It is also a palato alveolar, which is emitted also. Palato alveolar, voiceless, strong, long, and fortis. Number 2, we have 2 affricates. Affricate, palato alveolar, voiced, weak, short, and leanness. Nasals, these are nasals. M is nasal, bilabial, voiced, weak, short, and leanest. They are all voiced, they are all weak, they are all short, they are all leanest, because all nasals are voiced, as I have just said. So number 2, N, nasal, alveolar, voiced, weak, short, and leanest. Nasal, velar, voiced, weak, short, and leanest. Now move to glidings. Glidings or approximants. Yeah, where, and Yeah is gliding. It's palatal from the point of view of place palatal. It's of course voiced, weak, short, and leanest. They are all voiced, they are all weak, they are all short, they are all leanest. So where, gliding by using the two lips, bilabial, voiced, weak, short, and leanest. Gliding, post-alveolar, voiced, weak, short, and leanest. And the last one is called lateral, which is lateral, alveolar, voiced, weak, short, and leanest.